They thought she would break. When they left her standing alone, with nothing but a suitcase and a heavy heart, they believed she wouldn't last a day without them. After all, she was the quiet one, the girl who never spoke up, the one they overlooked in every room. But what they didn't see was the fire quietly burning inside her. A fire that would turn the life they once laughed at into the one they would spend their nights dreaming about. Her name was Emily, and in their eyes, she was just the girl who didn't fit in. She wasn't loud enough, bold enough, fast enough. So they moved on, leaving her behind like yesterday's news, chasing bigger dreams in louder cities. But while they were busy searching for happiness somewhere else, Emily was busy building something even they couldn't imagine. Piece by piece, day by day, she turned her small, broken beginning into a life so full, so beautiful, it would one day leave them wondering how they ever let her go. This isn't just a story about being left behind. It's a story about quiet strength, about the power of believing in yourself when no one else does. It's about what happens when the person you counted out becomes the one you can't stop thinking about. And just when it seemed like Emily had found her peace, something happened that would turn her new life upside down. And this time, the ones who left would come knocking at her door. But would she let them in? Or would she finally close the chapter they had abandoned long ago? The answer wasn't as simple as it seemed. Emily hadn't always been strong. There was a time when every cruel word stuck to her like a heavy coat she couldn't shake off. She grew up in a small town where everybody knew your story before you even knew it yourself. She was a shy girl with second-hand shoes, the one who stayed late after school to help clean up, the one who smiled even when no one smiled back. Her so-called friends saw her kindness as weakness, and when life got tough, they chose the easy road. They chose to leave her behind. The day they packed up and drove off without a second thought was the day Emily made a silent promise to herself. If no one was going to believe in her, she would believe in herself. It wasn't easy. The first few months were the hardest. Every night felt heavier than the last, and every morning was a battle to get out of bed. But slowly, in small, stubborn steps, she started building a life with her own 2 hands. She worked 2 jobs, studied in the quiet hours when the world was asleep, and saved every dollar she could. What Emily didn't know was that while she was quietly rising, the ones who left her were facing their own storms. Their dreams weren't as shiny as they once seemed. Big cities weren't as welcoming, and fast friends weren't so loyal. Slowly, their perfect plans began to crack. And through it all, whispers about Emily started to reach them. Stories of her success, her new life, her strength. It was almost unbelievable. The girl they had once forgotten was now the one making a mark they could only dream of. But they weren't prepared for what they find when they came back. And neither was Emily. It started with a message. A simple, almost careless text from someone Emily hadn't heard from in years. "Hey, remember me?" It said, like the years of silence and abandonment could be erased with a few words. Emily stared at it for a long time, her heart caught somewhere between anger and disbelief. She could almost hear their voices from the past, laughing as they made their plans without her. Now, they were reaching out, but why? The truth was, Emily's life had changed in ways even she hadn't fully processed. She owned a small, thriving art studio now, something she had dreamed about back when no one had been listening. She had a cozy little apartment filled with things she loved, built with money she earned on her own terms. But deep down, she still carried the scars of being left behind. And now, those same people were trying to step back into her world, as if they had never shut the door in the first place. Meanwhile, their lives weren't what they had made them seem. One of them, Jess, had moved from city to city, chasing jobs that never felt right. Another, Mark, was facing debts he didn't know how to pay off. And the third, Lena, who had always been the loudest, was now the loneliest, watching everyone else's life move forward while hers stood still. They weren't reaching out to Emily just for old times' sake. They needed something they thought she could give. But Emily wasn't the same girl they left behind. She had her own dreams now, her own battles she had fought alone. Could she trust them again? Or were they just another storm waiting to tear apart what she had built? As the days passed, Emily realized one thing: she had a choice to make, and this time, it would change everything. The next few days felt like walking on a tightrope. Every time Emily looked at her phone, more messages piled up. Apologies, small talk, even fake excitement about her success. They talked about how proud they were of her, how they always knew she would make it. But Emily remembered the truth: the years they spent pretending she didn't exist, the times they needed her the least when she needed them the most. Now they wanted to meet. They said it would be just like old times. But Emily knew better. Nothing would ever be like old times again. She agreed to see them, but part of her already knew this wasn't going to be a happy reunion. The night before the meeting, Emily couldn't sleep. Memories came rushing back: the loneliness, the nights she cried herself to sleep, the moments she almost gave up. She wasn't angry anymore, not really, but she was cautious. She had worked too hard to let old ghosts tear apart what she had fought to build. When the day came, the small cafe buzzed with noise and life, but to Emily, it all faded into a dull hum. She spotted them immediately: Jess, Mark, Lena, sitting together like no time had passed. But they looked different now. There was a tiredness behind their smiles, a crack in their voices. They waved her over like she was a long-lost friend. For a split second, she almost felt sorry for them. They talked like everything was fine, skimming over the past like it was just a small misunderstanding. But when the real reason for the meeting slipped out, the weight of it hit Emily like a punch to the chest. They didn't come just for friendship. They came because they needed her success, her money, her stability, everything they had once thought she would never have. And now, sitting across from them, Emily had to decide: was she still that quiet, forgiving girl they once knew? Or was she ready to show them just how much she had changed? Emily sat frozen for a moment, the noise of the cafe fading into silence around her. She could see it clearly now: the desperation behind their smiles, the way they shifted nervously in their seats. They weren't here for her. They were here for what she could give them. But just as she was about to answer, just as she was about to walk away from it all, Jess leaned in and dropped a second truth, one Emily never saw coming. It wasn't just about money. They needed her name. Well, Emily had been quietly building her dream, a business idea she had once casually mentioned years ago, something she had sketched on the back of a notebook, had somehow found its way into their hands. Without her knowledge, they had pitched it, sold it, and built shaky promises around it. But without her actual involvement, it was falling apart. Investors were backing out, contracts were breaking, and now they needed Emily to step in and save it, to save them before everything collapsed. The betrayal cut even deeper than before. They hadn't just forgotten her, they had used her. They thought they could leave her behind and come running back when it suited them. And now everything she had ever feared was standing right in front of her, asking for another chance. Emily's heart pounded as she listened, her hands curling into fists under the table. Every part of her life she had worked so hard to build was now being threatened by the very people who once made her feel invisible. If she said yes, she risked losing the independence and pride she fought for. But if she said no, she knew the consequences would reach further than just broken friendships. Because this time they weren't asking. They were desperate enough to destroy everything she had if she didn't play along. Emily took a slow breath and leaned back in her chair, letting the weight of their words settle. They thought they still held some kind of power over her, like the scared girl they left behind was still hiding somewhere inside. But that girl was long gone. What sat in front of them now was someone who had built her own world, piece by piece, without their help and without their approval. And she wasn't about to hand it over so easily. She smiled, calm and steady, and told them she would think about it. That's all she said. No promises, no anger, just a simple, polite answer. They looked relieved, thinking they had convinced her, thinking they had won. But Emily had already made her decision. She wasn't going to save them. She wasn't going to let them use her dreams for their second chance. Not this time. The very next morning, before they could even try to push her further, Emily made her move. She reached out directly to the investors they had lied to, sharing the real story, showing proof that the idea was hers and hers alone. It was risky, and for a moment, it felt like she might lose everything she had worked so hard for. But in the end, honesty spoke louder than desperate promises. The investors pulled out her old friend's deal completely, but not before offering Emily a new opportunity to lead the project herself, with full control and full credit. As Jess, Mark, and Lena watched their plans crumble, Emily stood taller than ever. They hadn't just lost a deal, they had lost the one person who had the heart, the vision, and the strength they thought they could borrow when it suited them. And just when Emily thought the story was finally over, a letter arrived, not from them, but from someone even deeper in her past. Someone who had been quietly watching her rise from the shadows, waiting for the right moment to step back into her life, bringing a secret that would change everything all over again. Emily stood by the window, the unopened letter resting on the table behind her. For a moment, she hesitated. After everything that had happened, she wasn't sure she was ready for another surprise. But she knew she couldn't keep looking back. She had built a life she was proud of, a life that didn't need anyone's approval. Taking a deep breath, she opened the letter. It was from her father. The man who had left when she was just a little girl, disappearing without a word. He had watched from a distance, filled with regret, too ashamed to face her. But now, seeing who she had become, he wanted to meet. Not to ask for anything, not to make excuses, but to simply say he was proud of her, and that he was sorry. For the first time in a long while, Emily didn't feel anger. She didn't feel sadness either. She felt peace. She realized that her story wasn't about who left or who doubted her. It was about who she chose to become in the silence they left behind. She had turned every crack, every break, into something stronger, something beautiful. Emily didn't rush to reply to the letter. She would answer in her own time, just like she had done everything else. For now, she walked back to her studio, sunlight pouring through the windows, paintings scattered across the walls, each one a piece of her journey. Her old friends faded into the background, chasing dreams they never truly believed in. Emily, the girl they once left behind, had built a life richer than they could ever imagine. Not out of revenge, not out of anger, but out of the quiet, unstoppable belief that she was always meant for more. And now she was finally living it.